But anyway, here's where we're at. Democrats ignored the fact that Hur's report contains actual crimes, and instead they focused as heavily as they possibly could on the one and only reason that Robert Hur declined to prosecute him. Definitely a strange strategy when you really think about it. And really, when you have a strange strategy, it's probably best to not let an out-of-breath Jerry Nadler run point on your messaging.
Hur says he had to, mention the president's mental state, had to evaluate that in order to explain why he didn't bring charges.
That is not true. He didn't. This was a Republican hit job. Remember, Bob Hur is the same individual who wrote for Bob Barr the false summary of the Mueller report that was released a month before the Mueller report was written. We're dealing with a Republican hitman. And the one thing I do not understand is why there is a 100% pattern of Democratic attorneys general hiring Republican special counsels and Republican attorneys general hiring Republican special counsels.
Were you concerned?
Yeah, we're dealing with a Republican hitman. Poor Jerry, man. That's what Jerry says. This poor guy. He doesn't know which way is up anymore. And then, of course, Jerry's harmless, but the worst of the worst, Adam Schiff.
And you also understand DOJ policy that you are to take care not to prejudice the interests of the subject of an investigation, right?
That is generally one of the interests that DOJ policy requires that prosecutors respect.
And it was your obligation to follow that policy in this report, was it not?
It was also my obligation to write a confidential report for the Attorney General explaining completely my decision.
What you did write was deeply prejudicial to the interests of the president. You say it wasn't political, and yet you must have understood. You must have understood the impact of your words. You must have understood the impact of your decision to go beyond the specifics of a particular document, to go to the very general, to your own personal, prejudicial, subjective opinion of the president, one you knew would be amplified by his political opponent, one you knew that would influence a political campaign. You had to understand that. And you did it anyway.
They all get together and they make a plan. They come up with whatever strategy they believe that you are dumb enough to believe. And that's the direction they all go in. And the direction they went, really, I guess, when you think about it, maybe the only direction they had. But there are so many crimes, that they couldn't possibly attack the actual crimes that are contained in the report. They really probably couldn't argue against the audio recordings. They definitely can't try to claim that the Corvette garage was secure. So they all got stuck on the only reason that Robert Hur had to not recommend charges for the president. And again, super strange strategy. The Democrats, here's where we're at. The Democrats are not upset that they declined to prosecute. They're not upset that he discovered actual crimes and listed them. They're upset that he gave real detail on his reasoning for not prosecuting the president. And really, who they should be mad at is Attorney General Merrick Garland. He could have redacted whatever he wanted in that report, but that's basically what we got from them. They kept talking about the fact that he got through the State of the Union without embarrassing himself too dramatically as proof that Robert Hur was wrong and his brain, Joe Biden's brain, actually works. And they also found the one line in the entire Biden transcript that was released just that morning that could possibly try and impugn the credibility of the special counsel. And just think about that strategy for a second. Democrats want you to believe that the guy who let Joe off the hook is a political actor with no credibility. And if we do believe that, well, shouldn't the logical response to that be, well, let's get someone else and let's get him prosecuted then?
And I want to give you a chance, since the transcript is out, to correct the record on an important point. Very sadly, your report on page 208 says that Mr. Biden couldn't come up with the year of his son, Beau Biden's death, when in fact in the transcript it shows that you asked him the month. And do you know what he said, Mr. Hur? He said, oh God, May 30th. Would you like to correct the record? His memory was pretty firm on the month and the day.
Congresswoman, I don't believe that's correct with respect to the transcript, but if you could refer me to a specific page, I'd be happy to look.
And my second document, to clarify for you, sir, Mr. Hur, from the transcription, page 82, the words are President Biden's. What month did Beau die? Oh, God, May 30th. a searing memory. I ask unanimous consent.
Without objection.
They try to beat the guy into submission, right? They essentially want the special counsel to basically say, hey, my mistake. I guess he's not a well-meaning old man with a poor memory. I guess he remembers just fine, which, again, should lead any reasonable person to wonder then, why isn't he charged? And luckily for Joe Biden, unluckily for the rest of us, if you actually read that transcript, nothing she says is true. Nothing she says is even close to true. He had to be prodded for the date. He never ever remembered the year without help from his aides. And honestly, if you read the transcript, it's so bad that it almost has to be an act. I mean, the guy's gone, but I don't believe that even Joe Biden is that far mentally gone. But anyway, that was the left's approach. Republicans, now obviously they have political motives here also. This whole thing is a political exercise. But nothing said from either side has any chance of changing the decision, right? Nothing from either side has any chance of changing the outcome. But the purpose, I think, from the Republican side is to really get to the bottom of why the decision was made. And really, I think, to help as many citizens as possible understand that the Hur report really does contain proof of actual crimes. And this is not some sort of innocence doctrine like the president and his gang of propagandists have claimed. And Democrat favorite Matt Gaetz, I think, lays that out pretty well.
So here's what I'm understanding, right? As Mr. Armstrong laid out, you find in your report that the elements of a federal criminal violation are met, but then you apply this senile cooperator theory that because Joe Biden cooperated and the elevator doesn't go to the top floor, you don't think you get a conviction. And I actually think you get to the right answer in that. I don't think Biden should have been charged. Don't think Trump should have been charged. But under the senile cooperator theory, isn't it frustrating that Biden continues to go out and lie about the basic facts of the report that lay out a federal criminal violation?
Congressman, I need to disagree with at least one thing that you said, which is that I found that all of the elements were met. One of the elements of the relevant mishandling statute is the intent element, and what my report reflects is my judgment that based on the evidence, I would not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury that that intent element had been met.
Right, but the reason you have that doubt is the senile cooperator theory.